All right, welcome back to another Serious Angler podcast. Hope everyone is doing okay, staying safe. It seems like a lot of things are starting to open up again, so that is good. Hopefully it's slow. Hopefully people are smart about it. We're using common sense. With that being said, I hope people are getting back to work, being able to fish, and life's sort of getting back to the way it was. Um, Things are doing okay here. Life's starting to get back to normal up here in New York, above New York City. I can't speak for New York City. But us here in Western New York, we seem to be doing okay thus far. We're allowed to still fish, so that's all that matters. People are working, so that's good. Life is okay at the moment. Um, Recently had a tournament, got second. My buddy Jacob Zaremski and I dropped a 26 pound bag, a 26.84 pound bag, which was pretty awesome. That is the biggest bag I put together in a team tournament. So that was pretty sweet. We did that as well, and it was just an incredible day for the both of us. And we're looking for the first tournament of the year. We'll take it. It was pretty awesome. It was a really fun day, and it was a beautiful day. It was low winds and it was sunny, so we didn't expect to go be dropping that weight. But this time of year, being the pre-spawn, moving the spawn, anything can happen. So it was pretty awesome. We found a pretty good bite and kind of patterned it and followed it throughout the day, and it worked out well for us. Um, so it's incredible to see New York do what it does, especially this time of year. 26 pounds gets you second place. 21st. I can't speak today, guys. First place took 28 pounds, which is pretty incredible and for New York. So it's pretty sweet. It's pretty awesome. Looking forward to the next Derby. But today we're having on Mr. Brandon Lewis speaking about another tournament, NYKBF Conesus Lake. The first live tournament for NYKBF for 2020 was this past weekend at Conesus Lake, and Brandon Lewis won it. And if you guys do recall, the Serious Angler podcast is partnered with NYKBF, New York Kayak Bass Fishing. So today we are going to have on the winner of NYKBF Conesus Lake, Mr. Brandon Lewis, to talk to him about his roots, his story, and about how the tournament went for him. Obviously he won, so it went well for him. But we're going to dive into it a little bit and get the gist on how the tournament went for him and his point of view. So pretty excited for that. But before we get into today's podcast, a huge shout out to Douglas Outdoors for sponsoring and supporting the Serious Angler podcast. So a huge shout out to them. And one rod that's been very useful for me lately was the Douglas X Matrix 715F, which I was throwing. I was getting up this past week, actually. I found these spawning flats where fish were moving up on. Water's a little bit muddier. So therefore, it was getting a little bit warmer. So I moved up into there and was throwing on a chartreuse and white spinnerbait, throwing on a Douglas X Matrix 715F. I was throwing a half-ounce Z-Man sling blades on that with a Kayak as a trailer. I paired that up with a Shimano Corrado 200 HG with, I think, a 15-pound Invisex. That was a cool little deal for me this past week. Hope that's a cool little tip for you guys. Head over to douglasoutdoors.com. Check it out. Get yourself in a Douglas. So without further ado, let's get on Brandon Lewis and talk about the NYKBF tournament at Conesus Lake. All right, we are recording. Mr. Brandon Lewis, what's going on, man?
Not much. How are you?
Doing all right. Can't complain. We finally got some week of 60 degrees. I'm looking forward.
I didn't think it was ever going to come.
I know. I woke up the other day, and my buddy and I are headed to Kayak, and we look at the water, or not the water. We're looking at the grass on the way to the lake, and we see frost, and we look at each other, and we're like, "Spring is here, baby! Let's go! Spawn is coming!"
Yeah, I think I was out on Tuesday fishing, and the wind picked up, and it was snowing. I think on Tuesday.
Yeah,
at least up here it was.
It's
crazy.
I hate New York.
Me too. Me too.
We don't get a spring much. We get a spring for like 3 days, and it's
right.
It's a winter with a hint of spring, and then right into summer.
Yep.
Yeah.
About right.
We can't complain. We have nice colors in the fall and stuff like that.
Right.
So it makes up for it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Sweet, man. Well, for people who don't know, you just won the recent event, NYKBF at Conesus Lake. So you have the pleasure of being stuck with me for a while tonight here on Skype. I get to butcher you with some questions.
Sweet.
But before we get into that, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and then, how you got into fishing and who kind of instilled that passion in you.
So I'm Brandon Lewis. I have been fishing as long as I can remember, but I only got serious about it at late last year. Um, I can remember growing up. I grew up in Pulaski, New York, so the whole salmon and steelhead thing was kind of my background. I was fortunate enough to have a family camp right on the river, right near the inlet of the lake, and so I fished there a lot. And then my grandfather and I always went ice fishing and stuff like that. And then when I got into high school, I got into running. I know you've been into sports in your past too. So my days through high school and college were strictly running. I mean, I used to run 120 miles a week and compete on Saturdays. And yeah, it was crazy. So during that time period, I didn't really fish much. I mean, we'd go down for a little bit and fish here and there, but it wasn't anything serious. And then when I graduated college, I moved out here to Rochester and I started my career, and I work in the HVAC business. And so then when I was even out here, I didn't even really fish much. And I was in a metal band at that time. I played drums. And so then things were kind of going south, and I was just like, I'm ready to go back home. So I moved back to Pulaski, and that's when this whole journey of fishing started. I bought my first kayak. It was the Walmart Classic Sun Dolphin.
There you go.
And it's just been a journey from there.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can totally see where you come from on the running background. Coming from a sport and being so involved in that sport that like you don't get the time to really invest fully or commit fully to fishing or a different hobby like that. So it's tough. When you're an athlete, you're very involved in the sport. If you're not one of the athletes that's just your average Joe that does it to have it on resume. It's we do it because we enjoy it. We're passionate about it, and it's now that we have the time, we can put that passion into fishing, and that's what's pretty cool about it. So,
and it was even hard. Like in college, it was even hard because my school I went to trade school, so my every day was I went to class from 8 to 3 every day. I didn't have these little hour breaks in between. I'm not sure how your school was, but I was in class from 8 to 3. I'd come back, practice 4 to 6, eat dinner, go to bed. That was my life for 2 years. So crazy. I kind of look back on it now, and when I moved back to Pulaski, I had gotten into fly fishing a little bit, and I remember being down there and seeing the streams and all that, and I'm like, man, I kind of wish I would have took advantage of it, but running was it.
Hey, it's something you can't look back on and regret. You got to look at it with something like, all right, I'm here today because I took this path.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
You got to look at it and be proud of it 100%. So you got into that Sun Dolphin, and then obviously you upgraded because I follow you on Instagram. So for those who don't know, he obviously upgraded from the Walmart. He upgraded from there. So what rig are you running now, and when did you kind of change and kind of go full bore into this kayak fishing scene?
So it was last August. I had gone fishing. Now another thing about here is I'm back in Rochester now, and all this water is new to me. I mean, I've never fished Conesus. I never fished anything on the schedule this year. Around Bay, I think I ice fished once and caught one lake trout, and I lost an iPhone. I know you can relate to that. So what happened was...
Wait. How did you lose an iPhone ice fishing? How did it drop?
I was out. So I went out ice fishing, and I just set up my shanty. I'd never been there. I didn't even have a fish finder. And I cut a hole, dropped my line down, and it just kept going and going and going. I'm like, holy crap. I don't know how deep I was, but it was deep. So I was sitting there forever. And all of a sudden, I'm on my phone, whatever, and pole goes down. Wham. It was like an 18-inch brown trout. So I saw that, and I'm like, holy crap. So, of course, I'm trying to take pictures. And, the old wet hands got slippery. And hence why I have, even in the kayaks now, I got that Rogue tether. It saved me Saturday. I'll get into that later. But so anyways, so last year, it was in July, I think, you guys did a tournament at Little Sodas Bay.
Yep.
And I didn't mention this earlier, but I moved from Pulaski to Red Creek, New York when I was 7. So Fairhaven was right down the road. So anyways, I follow a photographer on the internet that's from Fairhaven, and he had taken all these pictures of you guys taken off, and I don't think it was on the water, but coming back in and all that other stuff. And I'm like, what the heck are these guys doing? So of course I get on the internet, look it up, and that's how I learned about NYKBF. And so I got digging into it a little bit, and I saw, I don't know if it was the next tournament or a tournament after, but at that point you guys were coming to Irondequoit, which is right down the road from my house. So I'm like, sweet, I'm going to do it. So I got thinking about it. I'm like, man, I don't know if I can spend 8 hours in this damn Sun Dolphin. I mean, the seat's like molded in, it's plastic. I have no room for anything. And so I'm like, I got to find something. So I went to Field and Stream, and it was the sit-on kayak that looked like it'd work.
Yeah.
And I know you've had one in the past. So that's kind of what upgraded me to that. And it was kind of, what do they call it? When you buy something in instinct buying. Impulse
purchase.
Yeah. So it was definitely that. And I didn't really realize how heavy it was. And I have a Ford Escape, so I'm putting it on there, and it was just like, man, this is like heavy, but I'm pumped. Yeah. So I get home, and I ended up fishing that tournament, didn't even catch a single fish. And I mean, I think that day was bad for everybody, or a lot of people. And that's where it all started. And that's how I upgraded. And this year, this spring, I ended up seeing that they made boaters legal. I took a trolling motor and put it on there, which makes it 100 times better because paddling that thing is brutal.
Oh, yeah.
So I got a motor on it. I steer it with my pedals. And so I'm a little more efficient on the water. Still getting better, but I'm hoping sometime this summer I'm going to upgrade. I was going to do it this spring, but with all this stuff going on, nothing's open. But I do want to upgrade to a pedal drive. I'm really liking that native. I know you got the Wilderness radar.
I have the radar. Yep.
Radar.
You're looking at the Titan? The Titan is what you're looking at?
I am looking at it. I mean, the only reason I see that one is because I watch Greg Blanchard, and he's got the same build as I do, and he seems to do pretty well with it. So, but you're going to spend that money on a kayak, you want to put it on the water and make sure it's right. So I want to try a couple different ones. I mean, I know the whole Hobie Jackson thing, but I want to try each of those too, just because, you're going to invest that kind of money. And obviously this is something I'm going to do from now on. So yeah. I definitely want to make sure I try it and I'm comfortable and, go from there.
Yeah, totally understandable. It's not a purchase you want to, when you're going and spending money on a kayak like that, it's not like you're buying the Shadowcaster where you're just buying it on because you need it, ASAP.
Exactly.
It's not that kind of purchase. It's the time you need to, it's almost like buying a truck, buying a car.
Yep.
You want to feel things out, feel what you like, what you don't like, what features you want in it, what features you don't, yep. Certain things like that, which is pretty important. So it's pretty cool. But native Titan's pretty nice. I've been in one a couple times.
Yeah, I saw your review on YouTube on it.
Yeah, I think the only thing I had to it, and it was probably just me, just because my ears it's a different sound from the Radar Titan, is it seemed like it was a little bit louder. Yeah. But I don't think it really plays a huge difference. Right. But Greg makes he has way more in-depth videos on the Titan than I do. So he has some review videos. If you're looking at the Titan, if you haven't checked it out already, he has some actual in-depth native Titan review videos, full out.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them, and they were really in-depth. They were really good. The only problem I'm finding is, like, I know you're from the Rochester area. There's, like, no kayak shops around here. I mean, we got one down in the south end of Irondequoit and Field and Stream, or Source Warehouse now. But I know Justin's got his. Yeah.
Yeah, there's one Oak Orchard that's, depending on where you're in Rochester, it's northwest of you. I think it's on the Oak, actually. And then there's one in Syracuse. And then I think the best one we have in the northeast is Fish USA down in Erie, PA. That's probably the best.
Oh, they do? I didn't realize they had one down there.
Yeah, but I think they only carry Hobie. And they might actually carry native now because they're a bona fide dealer. So right. I think they might actually have the natives now. So
I'll look into that.
Yeah, I can link you up with one of the. I have a link there at Fish USA that I can get you involved with, and he'll help you out when looking for one. So I'll get you when we get offline here. I'll send you his contact. But that's pretty exciting, man. Getting in a new rig. I'm sure getting first place. That money helped kind of get you forward, and looking forward to that.
Oh yeah.
Kayak trip. So
yep,
that's awesome. Good to hear. Yeah. So let's get to this tournament, man. I know you said you mentioned you've never fished Conesus Lake. So, was this tournament your first time on the lake, or did you get out and practice at all?
So yes, I did. So I had gone out like 2 weeks before, I think,
Okay.
and it was an after work trip. So I got down there at like 3:30, 4 o'clock, and I launched at the north end, and I was out there. It was pretty windy, but it was actually kind of nice because I was drifting along nice. I didn't have to worry about my motor or paddling or anything, and I just did that all up along the north side. And I went down the let's see, north, south, the west side, and I didn't get anything. And I mean, I threw everything known to man, and like that lake doesn't really have any structure. It's not, it's definitely not. It's not like what I'm used to fishing.
Yep.
And so I had gone down that Thursday, didn't get anything. I actually met Forrest on the water then.
There you go.
He came right up to me and was, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?"
That's
And
so cool. Yeah.
yeah, and I think he caught a nice one on an Ed rig. And so then I had gone down. I'm like, I got the time. It was decent out. I'm gonna go down. I ended up going down on Thursday. So I got to the state boat. I said I'm gonna bail on the north end because I didn't have any luck down there. And so I decided to go to the boat launch on the east side, and boats everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a cart for my kayak because the one I had bent and it just doesn't work. So I was waiting for the boats to get in and out. And of course I'm in the way and I'm like, man, this is a nightmare. So I ended up carrying that stupid kayak from the part where you park all the way to the water,
You're
which
crazy.
was forever. And then I had my battery, my black pack, all my rod. I mean, it took me like an hour and a half just to get on the water.
Good grief.
And so anyways, I pre-fished a little bit, and there was one spot where I had seen a lot of fish in the water. And of course, that got my hopes up because this is all very new to me. I'm still learning how to read my electronics. I'm still learning how to break down water. There's a lot of variables I don't know. And as I don't care if you're fishing for a year like I have, or if you've been fishing for 40 years, you can still learn something.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, I got home and I'm like, all right, I'm going to start there because I know that there was actually fish there. Now, if they're there, they're there. If not, I learned something. So Saturday morning comes around, and I wanted to leave my house by 5. Of course, I leave at 5:30. I'm nowhere close to a morning person. And I got down there, and I ended up launching from Long Point Beach because I knew Saturday the boat launch was going to be a nightmare. And so, as a matter of fact, when I was there Thursday, I drove over there when I was done fishing just to kind of scope it out a little bit. And I was like, this is perfect. So I ended up getting down there at 6:15 and got everything unloaded. And I was over to my spot at 6:52, which was surprising because normally it takes me at least a good half hour to get everything on my kayak and strap down and everything else because I've lost rods in this kayak already. And I've learned the whole strap everything down.
Yeah.
So I get over there, and when I was heading over there, I saw a couple kayakers over there, and I tried keeping that whole mentality of it's just fishing, just fishing, just fishing. So I get over there, and I didn't start exactly where I wanted to. I had to start a little bit behind it, but I just fished my way through, and the other kayakers, they fished their way through and went on. Well, I went over, and I wasn't really sure what to do because when I was there on Thursday, the water was super clear. And, you could see down, you could see underneath it. I mean, I saw fish that were 3 inches under the water underneath the docks.
Mm-hmm.
And this, now to me, I don't know what muddy to you is, but this was like really like you can't see anything. Like this bait's going to have to be 6 inches in front of this fish for it to even see it. So I was trying to jig. I mean, I casted it maybe 5 times, and I'm like, you can't even see this thing. And so I decided to tie on a spinnerbait.
Okay.
And that was the ticket. All 4 fish that day was on a spinnerbait. Okay. And I only keep a couple of them in my thing. And I even tried a white and silver lipless crankbait to try to throw around. Couldn't even see that within a foot. So I'm like, I got to get something with some flash on it or something. So I ended up tying that spinnerbait on, and I think it was like 4 casts. Wham! I caught that 19 3/4-inch bass, and he was right on the corner of a dock. And of course, I mean, I'll have my video up in a couple of weeks, and there was a lot of like, holy craps, and this and that and the other. And so I'm like, this is the biggest bass I ever caught. And you've been there before many times.
Yeah.
And, you're shaking. It was cold. My hands were numb because it was not sunny and everything else like they said it was going to be. So, anyways, I ended up catching that, and I worked my way along that edge, and I picked up that first smallmouth. And which to me, all these fish are PBs because I was thinking about it earlier. I did catch a really big bass one time. I was center pin fishing for steelhead,
Okay.
and I saw a bass in a creek when I was back home. And I just happened, I had a little pink worm on, and I went up the river from it, and it floated out. Man, you wouldn't know it took it. And I was like, wham. So this bass, I have pictures of it, but I wear a size 10 shoe, and I put my foot to the tail, and my foot was about halfway up it. I mean, it had to be over 20 inches. I know it was.
Dang.
And I wish I had a scale. But so, anyways, I did catch that fish, but I don't count that because I don't know what it weighed or anything else. So 5-pound bass is my PB. And I was like, holy shnikes. So, anyway, fishing. So at that point, I'm like, well, should I stay here? Should I not? I couldn't see in the water to see if the fish were still there. And so I fished there till about 11:30, and I was throwing everything I could. I mean, spinnerbait, lipless crank, Ned rig, drop shot. I mean, just everything that I could possibly know, and just nothing except that smallmouth and largemouth. So I was looking at the standings, and I saw that I dropped down to 11. And everybody in front of me had 3 fish, and I only had my 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I needed 11 inches to get up back into the lead. And I'm like, I've never wanted to catch a dink so bad in my life. And I hadn't caught a fish for like 3 hours. So I'm like, all right, I got to change something. I just got to. And another thing I was going to mention was throughout the 3-4 hours I fished there, man, there was kayaks through there. Every bass boat on the lake seemed to go through there. I think it was a pretty well-known spot after going throughout the morning. And so I'm like, I bailed on it, and I'm like, I'm going to head back to the other side of the lake. So I went over there, and I'd gone around a point, and there was like 4 or 5 kayakers. It looked like they were anchored because they weren't moving at all. So grabbed the old trusty spinnerbait, and bam, caught that third smallmouth. And I think that one was 17 and a quarter, and right back up to the lead. And I'm like, that's the fish I needed. That was it. So I ended up just fishing along that whole edge the rest of the day with that spinnerbait, and I ended up picking up that one that was 18 inches, which pulled me up there. And of course, I showed the standings up. Huh?
I was gonna say that was one you didn't even need. You won by 2 inches.
I know. Yeah. And but I didn't know that at that time because I caught that fish after 2 o'clock. And I know some people can save pictures and put them in at the last minute and all that. So all this stuff is just running through my head. So then I got back to the boat launch, and I was talking to a couple of guys there, and one guy, he didn't catch anything, and the other guy, I think he caught 2. But yeah, that pretty much sums it up. But the only pattern that I could really find, because I'm trying to learn these patterns and what to throw on what conditions and water temps and all that. I mean, it's all new to me, so I'm definitely learning. But the only pattern that I could really figure out that I was confident in was the sun would go behind the clouds, nothing. The second that sun would peek out from a cloud, bam, it seemed like I caught at least the fish I caught came out just as that sun came out. And then by the time I was done, doing my pictures and releasing the fish, the sun would go down behind the cloud again. And then it'd come back out. That seems to be the only pattern that I can find. Because I'm still in that phase of finding confidence in baits. Yeah. I'm in that young stage of, I used to do mystery tackle box. I've got more different stuff to try known to man. Mm-hmm. And so I'm still in that stage. And I'm sure you even still get this way sometimes, is, even when things work and don't work, you still wonder why they happened. And I don't think anglers ever really know, because, that's why I don't mind talking about, okay, I caught all my fish on a spinnerbait, because today you could have gone out there with the same spinnerbait, fished the same spots or anywhere, and it would have not worked. You know what I mean?
There's so many variables. Yeah. There's so many variables that go into it, and that's, anglers. You make a very good point, and it's that if anglers can do so many different things, and they can work or it can not work, and they'll never know why, and that's why anglers make theories as to why certain things happened and certain things didn't, because ultimately we're never going to know 100% the reasons why. We can have a very good guess at why they're happening, but at the end of the day, we're not the fish, so we don't know. So
Exactly.
it's what's cool, and that's why we do what we do, is because it's nonstop learning. But to kind of expand on what you were saying with your bite that you were on, when that sun would come out, were you throwing a white spinnerbait?
It was well. The first I threw two of them because I lost one of them.
Okay.
The first one was a white and chartreuse,
Yeah.
and that had and I just learned this when I was talking to the guys at the parking lot. It had willow blades on it, and
Mm-hmm.
the difference between willow and Colorado. And then the second one I threw was white, and it was kind of like a green. It
Okay.
wasn't like a chartreuse green though. It was kind of like a mossy green,
Mm-hmm.
and that one had both a Colorado and a willow, and the willow was silver, and the Colorado was gold. So I can't even get down to what color it was that they like, because I was using that two different color thing, and I don't even know where I got that spinnerbait from. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
I just what I saw was gonna flash the most, and hopefully get the attention of the fish in that dirty water.
Yeah, I think pretty much what you're talking about right now, and it's good that you recognize that when that sun came out, because that's huge. So you're in muddy water, and you're throwing a white spinnerbait. It's that white and just the shine of the blades is the biggest thing during that. When that sun comes out, that's what you want, because when you're
Mm-hmm.
in muddy water and the sun comes out, you want to be throwing white or chartreuse. And then when that
Yep.
sun's away and it's muddy water, you want to be throwing like a black or a blue, or a
Right.
combination of the two, because that's when the black and blue glows, is when it's muddy and it's
Mm-hmm.
overcast. So that's
Yep.
perfect. What you found was bite windows. Was when that sun came out, it just sat up perfectly, and that's when that spinnerbait like literally shined. So
Yep.
like it's when that sun would hit the blades, and those fish see the blades, feel the
Yep.
pulse of them, and that worked out perfect for you.
And that's kind of how I learned it because you know, I'm pretty notorious. I used to northern fish a lot, so I'm used to watching your bait when it gets close to the water,
Mm-hmm.
and I just do that out of instinct now. And that's kind of how I learned that this weekend because you know before you had to have the spinner bait like a foot or two underneath the water before you even saw any flash. Well, once that sun came out, like you could see it 10 feet out there coming towards you,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of how I'm like, well, maybe that's a pattern, a little bit of a pattern going on. So.
Yeah. Yeah, this time of year, when naturally with that muddier water too, it's going to be warmer. So that's what you're going to want, and like that's what I was just explaining to everybody um, before we had gotten on here. In the introduction, is this past week. That's a bite that I got on. One thing that I recognize this time of year is when you find muddier water. Naturally, it's going to be warmer because muddier water warms up quicker.
Mhm.
Naturally, fish are, no matter where it is, fish are going to be drawn to that warmer water this time of year, because the warmer water they find, the faster they can spawn. Faster.
Exactly.
It's basically they're holding this big belly that's ready to pop,
Yep.
and they're not comfortable yet because the water is not warm enough. I mean,
Mhm.
they will when it's still cold water if they have to. It's no. I mean, I explain this to people, and it's kind of weird, but like when you got to go to the bathroom, you gotta go. You can't
Yeah,
hold that
exactly.
forever. So, but naturally, what they want to do is they want to find that warmer water. The warmer water combination of a spinnerbait, chatterbait, those are perfect baits for muddier water because they have drawing power to them,
Mhm.
especially if they're fish under the right conditions, which that's what you found, and
Exactly.
that makes perfect sense as to why that's the winning bite. So
Mhm.
that's it's pretty cool. And that lake too is naturally a clear lake. It's not, you can have up to 10-foot visibility on certain days. So the fact
Mhm.
that you found muddier water, I think was the ticket to finding those bigger fish that are easier to commit.
Well,
Because
that's good to
naturally,
know because
yeah,
I didn't think about that. I
yeah,
didn't know
clear,
that muddy water warms up faster.
yeah. Well, clear water, and I don't know the whole science of why it does. I couldn't go in depth with you on that. But clear water tends to be colder, and it's harder for those fish to bite because they can obviously see more. Muddier
Right.
water, they can't see as much, so it's a lot easier to pick up a bite.
Right.
So
Right.
that's
Right.
that's pretty cool. That's awesome. That's a fun way to catch them for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Spinnerbait.
like I said earlier, this whole series. I mean, I plan on doing all of them this year, and it's all new waters. And that's another thing I'm enjoying too is just breaking down a body of water, at least trying to, and hopefully I can keep this momentum up.
That's awesome, man. Well, that was gonna be my next question for you. Was you're gonna continue fishing them, and so that's awesome to hear that you're gonna keep going.
Oh yeah.
That being said, is there a tournament that's on the list for you that you're most excited about?
The only thing I'd have to say is Soda's Bay because I think that's on there this year, isn't it? Soda's
I think
Bay, yeah.
yes, I believe it is.
Um, yeah. The only reason I can say that is for one thing, it's close to home, so I don't have to wake up early, and uh, I have fished there in the past a little bit, not anything crazy, but a little bit. I mean, as a matter of fact, I fished there for the Fight the Virus tournament, and that was another thing I learned. I had gone out and I launched up near Sodas Point, and I fished around there for a little bit. And I came out from this marina, and I was throwing a red lipless crank because the water was pretty clear, and they say red's great in the spring. And wham! I think it was a 17 and a half inch bass within the first 20 minutes. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh wow, great. So I fished around there for a while, not much. So I ended up going all the way over across the Leroy Island because I knew it was a little shallower over there, and I'm like, I'll give it a shot over there. Well, I found this mud flat, and there was bass everywhere. And I was back to talking about confidence in baits. And one bait that I do have confidence in is a swim bait on an underspin. I have caught a lot of bass on that this spring. I've caught northerns on it. I love the northern fish too. Um, and that's like right now, that is like my go-to.
Nice, awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah, Soda's Bay, eh?
Yeah. I mean, that's in the middle of summer, I think. So that's going to change a little bit, the
Yep.
conditions there. But yeah, hopefully I can do some work there. Hopefully.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I hope so. Hope you can, dude. Hope you can keep up the success 100%. That's pretty awesome. So
Yeah,
one thing I want to bring up too is you have a YouTube channel,
I
and
do.
were you filming the tournament?
I was, and I'm going to be working on that video. I just came out with the one from the Fight the Virus tournament, which is the first year. So I got to get the second tournament done. I don't remember what that the pre-fish blast one, and then after that will be the tournament for that, which that'll be kind of cool because I filmed the pre-fishing and also the tournament. So I'm going to kind of do it in a format of kind of what happened ahead of time,
Yeah.
and then going to tournament day. I'm still learning that's a whole other ball game is that filming thing and editing and all that other good stuff. I enjoy it, but I mean, you hear these guys, yeah, it takes me about 4 hours to edit a video. It takes me like 4 weeks because I try to make it too perfect. I'm one of those guys.
Yeah.
But
Nothing wrong
so
with that.
yeah, I'm gonna be and I plan on filming every time I fish. Pre-fishing and obviously however the fishing is how the videos are gonna turn out. If I do great pre-fishing, that might be a video, and then I'll have a tournament video. But even like because my grandparents are still back in Pulaski, so once this is all over, I'll be spending some time up there too. And I like to chase northerns up there. I know you don't like northerns, but I love chasing the toothy critters, and I got some sweet spots up there. So I'm hoping to get into that. And then normally once a year, I go out to my uncle lives in Connecticut, and we go out fishing on a charter for like porgies and sea bass and stuff.
Nice. Nice.
I tried making a video of that last year, which I did end up managing to getting one together, but it definitely didn't turn out as much as I'd like it to because it was just, you got people around you and they don't know how to fish. It's kind of like a party bus. But another thing I've also want to do too is possibly go to Boston and fish for striper.
That would be cool.
We'll
That'd be
see.
really cool.
We'll see how the year plays out. But so yeah, a lot coming up, and I also love the duck hunt and deer hunt and all that good stuff. So it's not just fishing either. That
That's
kind of
awesome.
has its seasons.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I just picked up a new Matthews, so I'm pretty excited for the
Yeah, I
upcoming
saw
season.
that.
I haven't gone out hunting and since, oh gosh, what year was it then? 2018? Yeah, because I was spent this past fall in Indiana doing an internship, so I had zero time to go out and hunt. So I'm pretty excited to say the least to get back out in the woods, 100%.
Oh yeah, man! I bought a bow last year too. I don't even remember what I bought, to be honest with you. That sounds horrible, but it wasn't cheap, and I hunted last year and I missed an 8 point.
Oh
Uh,
geez.
I missed an 8 point. It was the day before rifle season. So I'd gone out rifle season and I shot a little 4 point. And wouldn't you know, an hour and a half, that 8 point walked out and
Oh no.
couldn't get him. I'm like,
So,
but
at least you're being ethical, so it'll pay off, and now you're gonna get rewarded
yeah,
in the right? That's not supposed to
Exactly.
work, I think.
Exactly.
You hope.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, so quick question before we wrap up and we do our little closing segment of fun questions that I know you're so excited for. So why the YouTube? When did you start it? And, what was the influence behind it?
So what happened was when I lived back in Pulaski, I had gotten a TV that was a smart TV, and I had YouTube. That was kind of how the whole into YouTube thing started, and kind of a little bit how I got into bass fishing and this YouTube thing was the Googans, like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of other people, and that kind of triggered me to, I might want to try that. And so I went out and bought. I had just I had the Chesty GoPro and then a GoPro, kind of as you'll see in my videos now, either behind me or in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And self-taught, man, and it's not easy. That whole editing vocabulary is like a whole other language. Because what I find is I get these ideas in my head. I want to do this. Well, what I know it as that, like say a fade, they won't just call it a fade. It's some word I've never even heard of. And
Different language.
yeah, and I'm constantly on YouTube looking it up and trying to explain what I'm wanting to look for or what I'm trying to do. Yet I still can't find it because I don't know what their language is.
I hear
But
you.
so, anyways, yeah, that kind of the Googans that kind of got me into it, and then last year, my brother and I rented a boat at Sodas Bay, and just kind of went out, have a good time, and that was the first time I ever used plastics, and
Okay.
I caught my first plastics jig on a Kraken craw on a
Nice.
jig. So that's kind of what got that whole ball rolling, and I did make a couple videos last year, but like I said, I was really learning them. So 4 weeks turned into 4 months trying to learn the software and stuff. But so I'm hoping this year get the momentum going with that and just keep posting and posting. I plan on posting. I have a hard time posting when I go out and don't catch anything because a lot of the times, like for example, this week, I fished Wednesday for Northerns. I went down Thursday to Conesus. I took Friday off and then I fished Saturday. Well, Wednesday and Thursday, I didn't catch anything. So I don't want to waste my time putting out a video that I didn't catch anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not doing it for the views and all that other crap. And I do it because kind of like I've heard you talk in the past, if it's kind of a good log
Yeah.
to see what worked when, and even just like this video of this weekend, someday I'm hopefully going to be able to share that with my kids and
Exactly.
like, if he's into kayak fishing or she, and, this was when daddy,
Yeah.
was in your stage, because
Yeah.
I've tried writing stuff down and that just doesn't work for me. You forget it. And, 3 months later, you're like, oh crap, I should have wrote about that. But that Angler app, I got that, or the Angler
Bullseye.
Bullseye,
Yeah.
that thing helps. But of course, on Saturday, I forgot to start it.
Oh no.
Pretty notorious for forgetting to start that because I've got everything else on my mind, and you catch your first fish, you let it go. Oh crap, I didn't start that thing.
Yeah, I
Because I
hear you.
even like one of the biggest things I like about thing is figuring out how long you've traveled.
Yeah, that's what I
You
really
know,
love it too. Yeah.
because you're like, man, I went 7 miles today.
Yeah.
Man, it's amazing how time goes by when you're having fun.
Oh, we didn't know 100%. It's pretty crazy to see how much you actually move when you're out there. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Each day I go out there, I try to break my record. On days that I'm trying to move around, I try to keep breaking it, see how far
yeah,
I
yeah,
can go. I
yeah.
went out last week, and it was a day where I brought just two rods, and I just went out and simply just graphed. And if I find like a good juicy looking spot, maybe I'd fish a little bit. But I mainly just went out, point of just graphing, and just build up a base of waypoints of just a bunch of offshore stuff. And I went, I think it was total of 16 and a half miles, something like that.
Wow.
I couldn't feel my legs afterwards.
What
I
that?
was walking up the ramp back to the truck, and I'm just like, I'm feeling it. Like I haven't felt this since back in the college sport days. And it's like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
sucks. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
it was kind of like a little bit more motivation to get a motor, but we'll
And
see.
that's another thing that I'm learning too. You say you just traveled a lot of miles to graph and stuff like that. Practice is big.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't catch fish, practice. And I'm even to the stage where I'm practicing with baits. Like, for example, I've thrown a frog. I've seen tons of people catch fish on frogs. I have never caught a bass on a frog. I've only ever caught a bass topwater on a jitterbug. Obviously I'm either not in the right area or I'm doing something wrong. But, as the season goes on, I'll even go out in the backyard and just, I'm even getting used to bait caster still. That'll be part of the whole video. I had a lot of mishaps with the old bait caster Saturday. And I also almost lost my phone. That'll be in there. Thank God for Rogue, man. That's all I got to say.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, man. It's the nice part about being an angler is you're learning, and that process never ends. Even when you're up to the top and you're at the pro level, those guys are still learning. Even if it's something they've been doing their whole life, they're still going back out to try to get better at it, try to fine-tune it more, and just, sometimes they don't fish for a while, and they got to go back out and learn it all over again. They got to fine-tune themselves. So it's cool little things here and there, and it's the nice part about our sport. It's never going to end. You're never going to know everything.
Exactly.
So it's awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
So now that brings us to our last segment, the fun question segment. And I got to find a new name for this because I feel like fun question makes the rest of the podcast sound like I'm saying it's not fun.
Yeah, right.
I got to figure out something. I should call it just the interrogation or something like that. I don't know.
There you go.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll have somebody just comment, what I should call this thing. Because I'm not creative enough for it. But nevertheless, let's get to these questions. I'm sure you've heard these questions before. So I don't know whether you're prepared with your answers or not. So no, that's perfect. Even better for me. So question number 1, and I know you know how this goes, but if you could invite any 3 people to dinner to sit down and pick their brain, who would they be and why?
I did think about this one. I struggled on the last 2. I still don't know what they are, but the first one that popped in my head was Steve Prefontaine. I don't know if you know who that is or not.
I do not.
He was a runner back in the 70s, and this kid, like, he has a they made a video or a movie of him. It's called Without Limits, and this guy had no limits, and he raced very differently than most people do. When you're running, you want to pace yourself. You want to hit those laps, consistent and stuff like that. This guy, he would run 5Ks and he would go as fast as he could from the time that bell went off till the time the gun went off till the time the bell rang. And he ended up making it to the Olympics and all that other stuff. Unfortunately, in 1975, he got killed in a car accident. He was a big drinker, and he was partying and lost control of his convertible and hit a rock wall, and it overturned and killed him. Anyways, I'd like to bring him back and just kind of get into his mind a little bit about running and stuff like that. The second one, probably my great-grandfather. We lost him in 2015. I would like to bring him back and talk about his early days. He was the one that owned the family camp I was telling you about on the Salmon River. And I see the pictures of him when he was younger, the duck hunting there, the salmon, the steelhead, just all the outdoor stories. And I'd like to pick his brain a little bit about just the good old times there, Yeah. Fortunately, in the end, he ended up getting dementia. So he didn't even know who I was and all that stuff. So it was kind of hard at the end. And but I'd like to bring him back and say hi again. And then the third one, man, I don't even know.
Got like a childhood hero or anything like that?
Not really. To be honest with you.
Anybody in fishing or hunting?
Honestly, I don't even know the pros' names. Man, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to come up with one.
Oh boy. What about a movie star or something like that? Somebody interesting you'd want to.
I guess thinking about. I don't watch anything but fishing now, but I would like to meet John B.
Okay.
He's my favorite. I see you seen him in Buffalo before, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was an interesting experience. for
I was
sure.
actually, I was almost, one thing I got to get better at doing is not being afraid to ask or, just talk to people.
Okay.
But I saw that last year he was up here in the Northeast, and I was actually thinking about, because he was looking for different places to fish and stuff like that to try to explore up here. And it was right around salmon season. I was actually going to message him and see if maybe him and Alex wanted to take a trip out to Pulaski to salmon fish with me. But for some reason, I just couldn't get the nerve to do it. But anyways, I would like to meet him. He seems like a super cool dude.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Nice. I like that. It's a good 3.
yeah.
There you go. All right. Next question. It's technically the last question. It's super simple. Your favorite fishing memory?
Favorite fishing memory. This one I faintly remember. I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, I'm going to say. And my grandparent, both my grandfather and grandmother, my mom and I had gone out to Perch River,
Okay.
and they were fishing a pike fishing tournament, ice fishing. And I was in that stage where I was more worried about playing in the snow than actually fishing. And I'll never forget my mom screamed, "Flag up, flag up." And she went over there and she yanked and she had this fish on. And that fish was a 43 and a half inch northern. Thing was
Jeez.
taller than me. And I'll never forget that. I mean, I faintly remember it, but yeah, that was probably just to see the excitement on her face and that whole thing. That I mean, I know it's not a fishing memory from me, but that was a good one. I guess
Still,
I could
yeah.
answer a fishing. I guess I could answer a fishing memory for me. I guess, man, it'd be a close call. That 5 pounder the other day that had the old nerves going, but it's not really a fishing memory. But I love catching salmon out of my kayak at our
Yeah.
family camp
I'm
there.
sure yeah, they're catching you. You're not catching them. They're towing you around everywhere.
Oh, they tow you around everywhere for sure. But that's probably I guess I don't really have a pinpoint besides obviously that big fish I caught on Saturday. But those are memories that are good to go for me.
That's
That's kind
awesome.
of yeah.
There you go. That's awesome, man. Well, we're gonna wrap it up right there. And before we do that, though, real quick, where can people follow you on social media? What's the YouTube channel name, as well as you even brought up earlier offline your photography page.
Yep. So YouTube is the Lewis Chronicles. You have to type in there Lewis Chronicles fishing because when you type in the Lewis Chronicles, it comes up nothing but Chronicles of Narnia. Yeah, make sure you type in fishing there, and you'll see me there. I'm holding a northern right now. My Instagram is Brandon 3_Lewis. That's my Instagram, and then I do have a photography page, which is Brandon_Lewis_photography. It's strictly just wildlife.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's the socials.
Awesome, man. We'll make sure that everything's all linked below so people can go down and quickly follow you. They don't have to go through the hassle of going through Chronicles of Narnia to find your
Yeah,
fish. So
exactly.
they
Yeah,
can go right
exactly.
down below and click on the link, and they can find your
Perfect.
channel. All right, man.
Perfect.
Just to say, I appreciate you taking the time, and congratulations again on the big win. I can't wait to see you upgrade the kayak and get even more invested in this thing than you already are. So, again, congratulations, and appreciate you coming on.
Thanks. I appreciate it. It was fun.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you.
Take care.
See ya.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that podcast there with Brandon. Congratulations again on winning Conesus Lake for NYKBF's first live event of the year. Technically, they've had 2 events. They had a Fighting the Virus. It's like the MLF style. Then they had a pre-fishing event, which was you can fish any different lakes. It was live, but kind of live. It was an interesting event that did on the fly because we weren't able to actually have a live event. So this is the first technically live event that I will call it, and congratulations to Brandon on winning that. There's a bunch more events coming up, but I can't wait to have each of the winners on here. So it's going to be a blast to have them on. So the next event is going to be on June 6th at Otisco Lake, which will make for a pretty interesting event with the way things are shaping up here in New York. So hope everybody can keep attending these events, keep smashing fish, and having a good time. So I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Make sure to go down and follow Brandon on all of his social medias. Show him some love. And if you guys aren't already, subscribe to the Icebird Outdoors YouTube channel. If you don't want to watch these podcasts, you can head over to the Serious Angler Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Anchor app, the Angler app. Pretty much anything out there you can find Serious Angler. So thank you guys again for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.